What if everything you've ever been taught about stress is wrong? Hey, it's your pal, the Dancing Housewife, and welcome back to the Dancing Housewife Podcast, where we explore the art, heart, sport, and science of ballroom dance. I want you to consider this. What if the nerves you feel before a competition, the pressure you feel when you're learning a new routine, the frustration when your body won't do what your brain is telling it to do, and even that little voice asking, am I good enough? What if those things aren't signs of a problem? What if they're actually part of what makes you better? Because what if the pressure you're trying so hard to avoid is actually something that can make you a better dancer? Stick around, because today we're talking about stress. Maybe you've been competing for years. Maybe you just started taking lessons and you're still trying to figure out which foot goes where. It doesn't matter where you are in your dance journey, because at some point you're going to experience stress. And when you do, you have a choice. Will you allow it to weaken you, or will you learn how to let it make you stronger? Let's play a quick word association game. When I say the word stress, what comes to mind? Anxiety, overwhelmed, pressure, fear, frustration, making a mistake? And let's be honest, for some of us, the word competition is enough to raise our heart rate tenfold. Most of us have been conditioned to think that stress is something we should avoid. But here's something worth thinking about. Your body doesn't automatically label stress as good or bad. Stress is your body's response to a challenge. Your heart beats faster, your breathing changes, your brain becomes more alert, your body prepares you to respond. Sound familiar? It should, because that's exactly what can happen before you walk onto the dance floor. Your heart starts pounding, your palms might get sweaty, you suddenly become aware of your breathing, you feel butterflies in your stomach, and then you think, oh my gosh, I'm nervous. But what if your body is simply preparing you for something that matters? Because let's face it, if you didn't care about the competition, if you didn't care about your performance, if you didn't care about becoming a better dancer, you probably wouldn't feel much pressure at all. Stress isn't always evidence that something is wrong. Sometimes it's evidence that something matters. Here's something that completely changed the way I think about stress. Researchers at the University of California have been studying something called hormesis. It's a fascinating biological principle that shows many living organisms actually become stronger when they're exposed to manageable amounts of stress. Scientists have seen this in organisms as simple as single-cell life forms, as well as in worms, mice, and other animals. When they're exposed to brief, controlled stress, not overwhelming chronic stress, but short periods of challenge, they don't merely survive, they adapt. Their cells become more resilient, and in some studies, they even live longer. Think about that for a second. Life itself seems to be designed not to avoid all stress, but to adapt through it. In other words, a challenge can create the stimulus for growth. And dancers already understand this intuitively. Lift weights and your muscles get stronger. The immune system develops because it's exposed to germs. Challenge your heart and lungs and they become more efficient and build endurance. Struggle to learn something difficult and your brain forms stronger and even new neural connections. But there's an important piece we can't forget. Stress alone doesn't make you stronger. It's stress followed by recovery. So maybe the question isn't, how do I eliminate stress? Maybe the better question is, how do I make stress work for me instead of against me? Think about a really difficult lesson. You've been working on the same figure for an hour. Your brain is tired, your body's tired, you're frustrated. You go home and think, I still don't have it. And then you sleep. You come back to the studio a few days later and suddenly you get it. What happened? Your brain had time to process what you were learning. That's why recovery is not the opposite of training. Recovery is part of training. And sometimes the best thing you can do for your dancing isn't another hour in the studio. Sometimes it's sleep. Sometimes it's stepping away. Sometimes it's taking a walk. Sometimes it's reflecting. Sometimes it's simply allowing yourself not to be perfect. Because growth doesn't happen when we're constantly pushing. Growth happens when we challenge, recover, reflect, and adapt. Psychologists distinguish between different experiences of stress. One is distress. That's the kind of stress that feels overwhelming. It's the feeling that the demands being placed on you are greater than your ability to handle them. It feels threatening, crushing, out of control, and dancers absolutely experience this. You have a competition coming up. You still don't feel comfortable with your routines. You can't remember the choreography. Your technique isn't where you want it to be. That's distress. But there's another term you may have heard, eustress. The prefix eu, EU, means good. Eustress is often used to describe stress that feels motivating, challenging, or energizing. Think about the excitement you feel before walking onto the ballroom dance floor. Your heart races, your palms sweat, your breathing changes, your adrenaline kicks in, you feel butterflies. Those physical sensations can be very similar to what you experience when you're anxious. So what's the difference? Sometimes it's the meaning we give those sensations. Psychologist Kelly McGonigal has done fascinating work around how our beliefs about stress can influence how we respond to it. Think about two dancers on deck, waiting for their heat. They're both nervous. One dancer thinks, I'm so nervous I'm going to mess up. What if I forget my routine? What if the judges don't like me? What if everyone is better than I am? Now imagine dancer number 2 thinking, I'm excited. My body is getting ready. I've prepared for this. I don't have to be perfect. I just have to dance. Same competition, same ballroom, same music, same heat, same adrenaline, same sweaty palms, but they're telling themselves two very different stories. And that story matters. Now, I'm not saying you can simply tell yourself you're excited and magically eliminate anxiety. That's not how it works. But you can learn to change the meaning you give your physical sensations. Instead of, I'm nervous, so I'm not ready, try, I'm nervous because this matters to me. Instead of, my heart is pounding, something is wrong, try, my body is getting ready to perform. That's a very different conversation. And sometimes the first step toward dancing with confidence is changing the way you talk to yourself before you ever step on the dance floor. One of the things I love about ballroom dance is that every lesson is an opportunity to practice being uncomfortable. Think about it. Your instructor gives you a correction, that's a mental weight. You forget your choreography, that's a mental weight. You have a bad round, mental weight. Your partner does something unexpected and disrupts you, mental weight. You don't get the placement you wanted, mental weight. You watch another dancer and start comparing yourself, mental weight. And here's the question I want you to start asking. Instead of saying, how do I get rid of this pressure, ask, what is this pressure helping me strengthen? Maybe it's confidence. Maybe it's patience or focus. Maybe it's emotional control or resilience. Maybe it's the ability to recover quickly from a mistake or learning how to stay present instead of getting trapped in your head. Because every challenge on the dance floor is an opportunity to train something in your body and in your brain. Let's talk about something every dancer experiences, mistakes. You miss a step, you get off time, you forget a piece of choreography, you lose your frame, you make a mistake and suddenly your brain starts screaming, oh no, I messed up, everyone saw that. And then what happens? You stop dancing. You're no longer in the music. You're thinking about the mistake you just made. And now you've created another problem. One mistake has become 3. This is the most important mental skills you can develop as a dancer, the ability to recover. Because you're going to make mistakes. I don't care how experienced you are. Something will eventually go wrong. The goal isn't to become the dancer who never makes a mistake. The goal is to become the dancer who can make a mistake and keep dancing. That's resilience, and that's a skill you can train. So how do we actually apply this to our dancing? Here are 3 things I want you to practice. Number 1, rename the feeling. The next time you're on deck and you feel your heart pounding, don't immediately say, I'm stressed. Try, my body is getting ready, or I'm excited, or this matters to me. You don't have to pretend that you're calm. You don't have to convince yourself you're fearless. You're simply reminding yourself that those physical sensations aren't necessarily the enemy. Your body is preparing you to compete. Number 2, ask better questions. When something goes wrong, pay attention to the question your brain asks. Instead of, why did I mess that up? Try, what can I learn from that? Instead of, why am I so bad at this? Try, what skills do I need to work on to get better? Instead of, why isn't my dancing as good as hers? Try, what can I learn from watching her? And instead of, why is this so hard? Try, what is this challenge helping me develop? Pressure often points directly toward the next skill you need to develop. And number 3, recover like it's part of your training. This one is huge. You don't need to earn the right to rest. Recovery is part of becoming a better dancer. Get enough sleep, take care of your body, eat well, hydrate, take days off, give your brain a break from choreography, reflect on your lessons, and if you're coming off a difficult competition or a disappointing performance, give yourself permission to process it before immediately jumping into, okay, what do I need to fix next? Sometimes you don't need another correction. Sometimes you need to breathe. Sometimes you need to remember why you started dancing in the first place. Because recovery isn't weakness. Recovery is where adaptation happens. So here's your challenge for this week. I want you to notice every time you feel stressed about your dancing. Maybe it's before a lesson or a competition. Maybe it's when you're struggling with choreography. Maybe it's when you watch yourself on video. Maybe it's when you compare yourself to another dancer. Before you automatically label that feeling as bad, pause. take a breath and ask yourself, is this pressure trying to hurt me or is it inviting me to grow? Then ask, what is this experience strengthening in me? Because maybe it's patience, or maybe it's confidence, courage, discipline. Maybe it's resilience. Maybe it's simply learning to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Because here's what I want you to remember. You don't have to eliminate the nerves to dance beautifully. You don't have to eliminate pressure to perform well. And you certainly don't have to become fearless. You need to learn how to dance with the pressure instead of fighting against it. Because the best dancers aren't the ones who experience the least amount of pressure. They're the ones who learn how to partner with it. Thanks for tuning in today. If today's episode changed the way you think about stress, nerves, or pressure on the dance floor, I'd love for you to click like, leave me a comment, share it, and if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and follow The Dancing Housewife on Instagram and Facebook so you never miss a ballroom tip. This is The Dancing Housewife signing off, and until next time, happy dancing!